Picture someone who has lived in the same house for 2 decades. The kitchen still has the original cabinets from the day they moved in. There's a particular step near the back hallway that makes a sound they've long stopped noticing. They know exactly where the afternoon light lands on the living room floor every single November. They've watched the same tree in the backyard lose its leaves 20 times. Around them, everything changed. New families moved in, old ones moved out. Construction crews transformed empty lots into massive modern builds. Former neighbors refinanced, renovated, relocated. The whole neighborhood reinvented itself multiple times over. But this person stayed put. Not because they were stuck, not because they lacked options, but because at some point they asked a question that most people never bother to ask. What exactly am I chasing by leaving? And when nobody around them could answer that honestly, they made a quiet, deliberate choice to stay. What happened next is something that people who kept moving are only beginning to understand. Modern culture built an entire narrative around upgrading your home. The progression is practically scripted. You start small, then you move into something bigger when the kids arrive. Then you keep climbing toward whatever gets called a forever home. Real estate marketing treats it like a ladder, and the unspoken message is always the same. If you're not moving up, you're falling behind. Standing still gets reframed as failing quietly. But the financial reality behind that narrative is something almost nobody talks about honestly. Every single move carries a brutal hidden cost. Agent commissions, legal fees, transfer taxes, moving expenses, new furniture to fill larger rooms, renovations to fix what the previous owners left behind, and a fresh long-term mortgage that resets the entire debt clock. Research into housing transaction costs across developed economies found that the average home purchase costs between 8 and 10% of the property's value in combined fees and hidden expenses. On a $400,000 home, that's up to $40,000 gone before you spent a single night under the new roof. Every upgrade burns that capital completely. The person who stayed never paid that tax. Not once, not twice, not at all. That money stayed working for them. It reduced the principal on an already manageable loan. It compounded in the background for 20 years while neighbors were celebrating granite countertops attached to a fresh 30-year debt sentence. But the financial side is only one part of the story. A psychiatrist named Dr. Linda Marsh spent decades researching what happens to the human nervous system when familiar environments are disrupted. Her findings documented something she called environmental severance, the deep psychological stress response that follows when a person's physical surroundings are suddenly disconnected. Her research showed that the nervous system doesn't simply inhabit a home, it calibrates to one over time. The particular sound the neighborhood makes at 2 in the morning, the way winter cold settles into the front entryway, the specific quality of light on an ordinary Tuesday morning in the kitchen. These aren't decorative details. They are the sensory anchors around which a stable mind organizes itself. People who stay in one place protect something invisible and invaluable. Lower baseline anxiety, better sleep, a nervous system that knows exactly where it belongs. Harvard sociologist Dr. James Callaway dedicated his research career to studying what long-term neighborhood stability actually produces in people's lives. His data found that individuals who remain in the same community for extended periods develop what he called deep trust networks. These are not the polite wave from the driveway relationships that new subdivisions generate. These are the relationships where a neighbor has had a key to your front door for 15 years, where someone watched your children grow from toddlers into adults, where people show up without being called the moment something goes wrong. Those relationships cannot be manufactured quickly. They require years of ordinary, shared experience stacked on top of each other until something genuinely irreplaceable forms. Every person who upgraded and moved started that process from zero again. New faces, polite introductions, superficial conversations in the driveway. The entire invisible social infrastructure had to be rebuilt from scratch. And most people never quite finish before the next move arrives. For families with children, the psychological stakes are even higher. Research into child development consistently shows that environmental stability is one of the strongest predictors of emotional resilience in young people. Not the size of the bedroom, not the prestige of the zip code, the consistency of the physical space. A child who grows up in one home develops a fixed internal reference point, a place that is genuinely, permanently home, where their height is marked on the same door frame across a decade, where they know the layout in complete darkness because their body memorized it years ago. That foundation shapes a child's psychology at a level that a rotating sequence of upgraded addresses never could. And then there is the mortgage itself. The person who bought a sensible home 20 years ago and simply stayed is either completely debt-free today or within months of it. Meanwhile, the person who upgraded twice in that same window is still decades away from owning anything outright. Financial researcher Michael Crawford spent years studying how ordinary people build lasting wealth. His conclusion was consistent and largely unwelcome in consumer culture. Genuinely wealthy people live in modest homes they have owned for a long time. They do not upgrade to perform success for their neighborhood. They build financial sovereignty quietly, without public demonstration, until the independence becomes undeniable. Staying in the same home for 20 years says something precise about a person. It says they make major life decisions based on actual utility rather than external validation. It says they understand the difference between a home and a status signal. It says they are comfortable enough with who they are that they don't need a larger address to prove it. The upgrade always costs more than the price tag, and staying always returns more than the square footage ever could. If this way of thinking about money, psychology, and the real meaning of home connects with you, you're in the right place. This channel, Mind Decoded, is dedicated to uncovering the deeper patterns behind the choices people make. Subscribe so you don't miss what comes next.